You're listening to the weekly Portland podcast, a slice of city life every Monday. I'm your host, Gregory Day. On today's show, I talk with Steven Humphrey, Editor-in-Chief at the Portland Mercury. Steven was kind enough to sit down with us for about half an hour and give us the inside scoop at what goes on at the Mercury, and some insights into his own personality as well as his editorial philosophy. So let's get right to it. Here's my chats with Steven in Old Town. I read on Wikipedia that Sam Elliott stops by the Portland Mercury offices. Is that true?
Yeah, Sam Elliott totally came by. It was like the greatest moment of my life. I was going to say with the Mercury, but it was possibly the greatest moment of my life. Really? Yeah, because I'm a huge fan of Sam Elliott, and it just like completely took us by surprise. He grew up around here. From what I understand, his mom still lives here in town, and so yeah, one day he just like popped into the office and said like, "Hi, I'm just wondering if I could find a copy of the Portland Mercury that I read one time. I just wanted a copy for myself." That sounded like Elvis. That did not sound like him. But so you'll have to forgive me for that. But yeah, and so someone came over past my office and they said like, "Sam Elliott's in the office." I'm going like, "Yeah, right." And then the person laughed and ran off. And I went, "Wait a second, why would they say something so weird?" So I peeked out around the corner and there he was. And I walked up and I was like, "Mr. Elliott, how can I help you today?" And it was like, it was such an amazing moment. I loved it. So that was worth my entire career, that right there. Yeah, I mean, I could just hang it up now. Who cares? That was like, that was the apex. It's all going to go downhill from here,
He stops by the Pendleton wool store. I work at the corporate office, and it did cause quite a commotion when he stopped by.
Yeah, totally.
So that was that.
Yeah, I know, totally.
You've been in this business for a long, long time, and can you tell us, I know it's difficult to summarize that briefly, but humble beginnings. Now, I've heard that you started publishing papers out of a house. Is that right? Am I?
Yeah, and actually, thanks. Actually, it goes back even further because the Portland Mercury is a sister paper to the Stranger newspaper in Seattle, right? And I helped start the Stranger back in 1991. It was like me and our publisher Tim Keck and like Dan Savage was there at the time. Yeah, and we all actually did that paper. There were like 8 of us, and we all.
Dan Savage was actually involved.
Yeah. Totally, yeah. He was actually my classmate at University of Illinois, which is where we met. We were both in the theater department. Yeah, we were both in the theater department there. We both met, and he was just like, normal schlub like me. He was working in a video store and stuff, and so. But we at the University of Illinois, there were a few of us who knew people at University of Madison, Wisconsin, where Tim Keck, our publisher, and others were going, and we all just kind of knew each other, from our friends, and so we'd visit each other from time to time and stuff like that. But Tim started the Onion, which is started in Madison, Wisconsin, and so it was pretty much kind of like what it is today, and that they did that, like him and a friend did that for 2 or 3 years, and he eventually drove him a little crazy and he sold it off. But the Onion still kind of just kept going from there, and it's still just like a parody paper like it is now. So after college, we all went our separate ways, and Tim went to Seattle, and then I decided with a girlfriend, and he said, like, I'm going to start a paper here, right? And he called all of us up and said, like, "I'm starting this paper in Seattle. Who wants to come?" And at the time, I was in a disintegrating relationship in South Carolina, and I hated my job there. And so I said, "I'll see you in a week." And I threw everything in the car and drove across the country and got there. And so there was like 8 of us. And we started this paper in Seattle, and we all stayed in a 2-bedroom apartment. We lived there, and we put it out there in like 1991. So, and it was a super fun time to be there. It was like the grunge years, and so it was like an exciting time to start something new like that. And so So anyway, we started that, and then 10 years later, we decided people in Portland were enjoying the Strangers that we would ship down here, and so we decided to go ahead and spin it off. And that, so he sent me. I was managing editor at the Stranger at the time, so he sent me and a couple of others down to Portland, and we did that. And look where we are now. Just look at us.
Now you seem like a fun editor-in-chief. I'm guessing that the work environment is kind of lighthearted because that's how the magazine reads. Is it a magazine? Is it a paper?
Yeah, it's a newspaper, and it's a fun place to be. But I think a lot of people think that we're all like playing electric guitars and riding skateboards around the office all day, and that's not it. It's actually, I think a lot of people are pretty bored when they come in because we're writers and we're all like, in our little, we're all in our cubicles and typing away all day, and we, that don't really, there's occasional moments of ebullience, but and Sam Elliott coming by the office, so that was so occasional moments of excitement, but a lot of the excitement goes on in our minds. Yeah.
I have to admit, I have a friend who has had friends that have worked for you, and they told me to ask you about your childhood, like what you were like as a kid. I don't know why. Is that anybody's business? Should I even ask that question? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Because you're so upbeat, you're so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why they asked.
Well, okay. Well, like a friend of mine once described me as festive but cruel. And so I think that's pretty apt. I mean, I'm certainly a nice, open person, I think, generally, but I can, I have a broad, cruel streak, but it's in the interest of fun that I do it. So I like to play pranks, and I did that a lot growing up, and now I look back on some of those pranks and I said, well, that was kind of a dick move, some of the things I did, but they were funny dick moves. At least I think so, anyway.
I also heard something to the effect of, you wrote a lot about Justin Bieber. Do you want to talk about that?
It's kind of weird to think about that now that, he's been established as such a douche. And now it kind of makes me feel like, man, it kind of just makes me look bad now. But at the time, I mean, I've always been really, okay, here's something about me. I'm obsessed with other people's obsessions, and I get really interested in people who are enthusiastic about something. So, and I get off on their enthusiasm. I don't really care what it's about. They're enthusiastic. And who's the most enthusiastic group in the world? Teenagers.
The Bieber fans.
And teenagers in general, and then of course the Bieber fever fans. And so at the time, I've always been interested in like pop music and stuff like that. And so of course when at the time he came out, it was like, and mostly it's kind of in fun. I mean, I've been to a Justin Bieber concert. And it's mostly in fun, but like I said, I get off on the enthusiasm like around me. Like if you've ever been to a teeny bopper concert and just heard, it sounds like 10,000 tea kettles going off all at once. It's just insanely loud, and people are just this love that pours out. Whether the person deserves it or not, right? But just that enthusiasm is something that's just I've always been interested in. Yeah. And it kind of inflects a lot in my work, too.
You're a public figure, and there isn't that much information regarding you out there. Mm-hmm. Is that by design?
It's a little bit by design. I'm kind of I'm kind of what you call a public-private person. I like having, I think that's the thing about fame anyway. I mean, I don't know how people stand it. I'm by no means famous. I get occasionally recognized in the grocery store or something like that, very occasionally. And I'm always, happy to talk to people and stuff like that. But it's just weird but even that, it makes you, I don't know, just really question fame and like in losing that kind of part of yourself. So I mean, I've just always been like a kind of actually kind of a shy person. I don't present as shy, but I am shy. And so I think a lot of times I kind of like to present this kind of character to the world. No, what you're getting from me is real. Don't get me wrong. But the I Love TV character was like kind of, I created him as like, he's like my id. He's the person that would just say anything and do anything, without a filter. And that was kind of where the comedy came from. And, some people like thought I was actually that way. I remember one time I went out on a blind date with someone, and I talked to her for a while, and she goes like, well, I've read your column for years, and I just thought you'd be more interesting. And you know what? I loved that. I just thought it was hilarious. And I went like, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I said because she thought I was going to be like this crazy nutbag that, no one, you couldn't stand somebody like that in real life, obviously. I mean, but, so yeah, I think that's kind of so I'm kind of a public-private person.
Printed media is a tough game.
Yeah, super tough.
And the Mercury's done well.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
Well, I think like when when we came to town, our intention was giving. You always just kind of want to give the people what they don't have, and so at that time we said like, okay, well Oregonians around, Willamette Week's around, Tribune was just coming around, so they're all do like pretty heavy news, and so. But like entertainment, I kind of felt was a little bit on the, was not being covered as well as I thought it could have. And I said, there's our, that's a good niche for us, and that's what we do well. So that's who we hire, is people who are like from the community, who are in those communities, like the music community, the theater communities, the film and everything else. And so that they they really focus on it, and they take it real seriously, and because I feel like that's our job as a newspaper is to show people a good time and to show them that there are good times to be had, and like to give them this connection to the city, because I mean life can be really lonely sometimes, for people in the city, and sometimes you kind of feel like I don't have a community. Well, you do have a community, and we want you to find it, and that's kind of what we kind of focus on when we're like, what's something interesting? Who are interesting people in town doing interesting things? And we really like to trumpet those people to inspire other people to do it. And that's I think especially important for newcomers, who I love you newcomers, but I just want you to give to the community like other people are giving, like if you've got a talent, you don't hide it under a bushel, you need to let your light shine and come to the city and do something fun, and do whatever you're passionate about. I don't care what it is. You can be like, it can be arts, or it can be like running a business where you pay your employees well and you do something interesting. Just be part of the community, and that's kind of the focus of the paper.
And finally, Steven noted that the I Anonymous column is going to be broadcast as a podcast, and he talked a bit more about that in the following.
For people who like podcasts, we've got a new podcast coming up, actually, that's called, it's the I Anonymous podcast. For those of you who know about I Anonymous in the newspaper, that's where people write in their grants and confessions. And what we do is, if you know comedian Bree Pruitt, she's hilarious. And so basically she's going to get I Anonymouses, read them on stage live at the Secret Society. That's where it's going to go down. And she's going to have a panel of 3 or 4 comedians, and they're going to judge the person who wrote the I Anonymous. Are they right? Are they wrong? Were they morally in there? And also the comedians will talk about, like, they'll give their takes on it, and like embarrassing things that happened to them. And so it's really fun. We did it at the Bridgetown Comedy Festival, and it killed. It was so fun. And so we decided to make a podcast out of it. It's so funny.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next Monday. It's very exciting. My name is Gregory Day. Thanks for tuning in. See you then.
I killed that.
You did.